Leadership is action-oriented. The leader has to be the spark. The leader has to be the change agent. The leader has to be the motivator and the inspirer. But above all, the leader has to be the example. Leaders solve problems. That's all I did for most of my adult life. I was a problem solver as a lieutenant. I was a problem solver as a general. I was a problem solver as Secretary of State.
You not only lead extremely well, but you've reflected on leadership, and you've come to some convictions about leadership, and then you've put them down in sort of axiomatic form. These Pauëll principles, these short sound bites that you've been a proponent of these principles for a long, long time. And I wonder if I could just ask you about several of them, kind of rapid fire,
Sure.
And then you explain them to us. Leaders should promote a clash of ideas.
The best leaders are those who allow lots of flowers to bloom and accept clashes of ideas. What's the point of having people work for you if you don't let them give you their best ideas? If they're just sitting around waiting to figure out what you want done and then they do what you want done, rather than saying, General, no, you shouldn't do that, or General, here's a better idea. So I have always encouraged a leadership environment around me, either as Secretary of State or as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff or as a battalion commander, where my subordinates and my followers and my subordinate leaders were able to argue with me directly about what we should do. And if I don't take advantage of their expertise, then why do I have them? And I don't want somebody who knows more about a subject but is reluctant to tell me about it because it might look like a clash with the boss. Oh. Clash with the boss. Argue with me. Argue with each other. But there will come a point when I've heard enough, I now know what I want to do, and I will tell you what the answer is. This is what we're going to do. From that point on, no more clash of ideas. The only idea that counts is mine. And at that point, what I expect all of my leaders to do and all of my followers to do is to execute my decision as if it was something they thought of, and to execute it with full passion for my idea. I generally can get that from people because they know that I have listened to their point of view. And they also know that I can't just take their point of view. I have a lot of other things I have to put into the equation.
Now, is this what you refer to as a noisy system?
Yes, a very noisy system.
And explain that a little bit.
I encourage, for example, as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, which is the #1 position in the Armed Forces of the United States, whenever I was working on an issue and I needed to have a meeting on it, I'd bring people into my office. I would not be wearing my blouse with all the medals and stars on it. I'd wear a woolly-pulley pullover sweater so that I sort of hid my position under rather nondescript clothing and put people at ease. I would never use a rectangular table. It would always be circular. And I would change where I would sit, so there was never a head to the table. And I would bring in young officers to sit with me, and I would argue with them. And they were initially, oh my gosh, the chairman's putting me on the spot. But the word got out quickly. General Pauëll really wants to hear what you think, even if you are only a captain and he is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And you know, he will argue with you, he will challenge you. And you'll feel a lot better when it's all over because he has listened to you. And I would create that kind of environment so that people knew that what General Pauëll wants is not just reinforcement of what he believes or what he thinks or what he wants. He wants what you know. He wants to pull out of you all of your knowledge and experience. I also found the effect was when they would go back to their offices, sweating, drenched, they would say to everybody else in the office, "Whew, yeah, I told him."
Yeah.
And that's good. Yeah. I told him.
One of my favorite of all yours, plans don't accomplish work, charts on walls don't accomplish work, only people get things done.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the origin of it.
Yeah, I'd love it.
I was at a promotion ceremony in the government. I was a White House fellow serving in the Office of Management and Budget, and I got invited to a promotion ceremony. And one of the individuals at the ceremony was a great man by the name of Admiral Hyman Rickover, the father of the nuclear navy.
Right.
And the individual was promoted. I don't even remember who it was now. And they asked Rickover to say a few words. And Rickover, who was getting old then, he said something along the lines, you know, plans are great, leaders are great, we all have to make sure we put out the right plans. But remember, All work is done by the followers, by the people. And so the leader has the great responsibility of putting the followers into the best environment to accomplish the work. And it isn't now, I would update that, say PowerPoint presentations are wonderful, and email is wonderful, and corporate meetings and offsites and all the rest of that is wonderful, but it's the followers that get the work. There's a rule in the Army when you're doing a mission and you're preparing your battle plan. The commander gets 1/3 of the time. Take 1/3 of the time available to make your plan, but then give the other 2/3 to the rest of the organization so that subordinate commanders can prepare their plan and the troops can be prepared to accomplish the mission. But how many times have you seen in your life, in your experience, Bill, where a problem is being dealt with and all the leaders at the top take most of the time to plan and think and write papers and do PowerPoint presentations and to talk to each other, and then at the very last minute, a day or so before you want to get the thing done, you tell the followers about it, and then you wonder why it's all screwed up. 1/3, 2/3, pretty good rule to follow.
Be prepared to disappoint people. Be prepared to make people angry.
If you're going to be in charge, you have to be prepared to make some people unhappy. If you can't do that, you can't be a leader. And there will be days when you just can't take any more from somebody. You can't listen anymore. This is what we're going to do. And I am overruling you and I'm making you miserable. Now, that's just the way it is. I'm the leader and you're not, and I have the responsibility.
Do you think it's possible to be liked and to be effective in your role?
Yeah, because there's another one of my little rules that's a corollary to the one you just raised, and it's don't let your ego get so close to your position that when your position goes, your ego goes with it. What that means is, okay, we're arguing about something, and you're really arguing strongly about a position, and I decide against you. I'm going to do it a different way. You've just lost the position argument. But don't have your ego so caught up in it that you feel that you have been personally insulted because I didn't go with you. And so always keep some distance between your sort of emotional involvement in an issue and your professional involvement in an issue. I had an officer who worked for me, and he was a Marine, and he was aggressive, and he would fight with me all the time. He was about 2 grades below me. He was a major general, I was the chairman. And he would always come in and argue with me about something, and he was always trying to get me to do the right thing by giving me all the information. But he sometimes pushed it a bit too hard for my taste. And I'd say, okay, I got it, Jack, now get out of here. And don't bother me with this anymore. And he'd march out, a little unhappy. But the next day, he'd be right back in battery, ready to go again. I need people who will tell me what they think, trust my judgment to incorporate what they think, and don't let their ego, don't let their personality get so close that when I spoil your day, when I really make you miserable, it doesn't destroy you. You know I still love you, and I want you back the next morning.